Picture this, it's 5 a.m. on a Pacific island. A dentist, yes, a dentist, is running a field hospital when suddenly the sound of thousands of Japanese soldiers pierces the dawn. They're charging, his wounded lie helpless around him. He has moments to make a choice: evacuate and save himself, or stay behind with nothing but a rifle and his courage. What happens next is a story so incredible, so brutal, that it took 58 years for America to officially recognize his heroism. And when they did, the numbers they found were absolutely staggering. This is the story of Captain Benjamin Lewis Salomon, the man who killed nearly 100 enemies in a single desperate battle, and how he became one of World War II's most forgotten heroes.
Benjamin Lewis Salomon was born on September 1, 1914, in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, into a close-knit Jewish family. From his earliest days, Benjamin showed remarkable discipline and character. He was an Eagle Scout, one of the few Americans to achieve this honor, which taught him leadership, resilience, and an unwavering sense of duty. After high school, he attended Marquette University for a year, before transferring to the University of Southern California, where he completed his undergraduate degree. In 1937, he graduated from USC's prestigious School of Dentistry and immediately opened his own practice. He was successful, respected, and building a comfortable life in California. But life had other plans for Benjamin Salomon. In the fall of 1940, the Selective Service Act became law, and Benjamin was drafted into the U.S. Army as a private. Instead of feeling resentful, he embraced the challenge with the same determination he'd brought to everything else. Benjamin quickly proved himself exceptional. He was promoted to sergeant and placed in charge of a machine gun section, a position of significant responsibility. His commanding officers were so impressed with his ability and his dedication that they noted in his record that he was the best instructor we ever had. By 1944, he was promoted to captain, a rank that reflected his exceptional service and leadership. In May of 1944, Captain Salomon was assigned to the 105th Infantry Regiment, 27th Infantry Division, and deployed to Saipan in the Mariana Islands. When he arrived in June, the island was already a hotbed of intense combat. But there was a problem. The 105th Infantry didn't need a dentist during active warfare. Rather than sitting idle, Salomon did what came naturally. He volunteered. When the 2nd Battalion surgeon was wounded in a mortar attack on June 27th, Salomon immediately stepped forward to replace him at the medical aid station. By early July, the American forces had already dealt devastating blows to the Japanese army. Nearly 30,000 Japanese soldiers had been killed, and approximately 5,000 more remained on the island, trapped and desperate. Their commanding general, Yoshitsugu Saito, was cornered. In a last-ditch effort to turn the tide, he issued a command that would live in infamy. "We will advance to attack the American forces and will all die an honorable death. Each man will kill 10 Americans." On July 6th, American intelligence warned that a massive Japanese assault was coming that night. The 27th Infantry Division's 2nd Battalion, positioned near the village of Tonopag on Saipan's western coast, established a defensive perimeter with foxholes protected by artillery. Captain Salomon set up his medical aid station in a small tent, positioned about 50 yards behind the forward foxholes and roughly 30 yards from the shoreline. He had no way of knowing that this location would become the center of one of the war's most horrific battles, and that he would become its most unlikely hero. At approximately 5 a.m. on July 7, 1944, all hell broke loose. An overwhelming force, estimated between 3,000 and 5,000 Japanese soldiers, surged toward the American lines in what would become one of the largest coordinated attacks in the entire Pacific theater. The sound alone must have been deafening. The ground shook, explosions erupted everywhere. Within minutes, the aid station was flooded. Approximately 30 wounded American soldiers, some walking, some crawling, some being carried by their comrades, poured into Salomon's small tent. The cramped space became a nightmare of blood, pain, and desperation. Captain Salomon worked frantically, trying to stabilize each man, trying to ease their suffering, knowing that every second mattered. But the Japanese kept coming. The perimeter was collapsing under the sheer weight of the assault. Solomon watched in horror as Japanese soldiers began infiltrating closer and closer to his position. Then he saw something that would change everything. A Japanese soldier, bayonet raised, moving toward one of his wounded patients with murderous intent. Solomon didn't hesitate. He grabbed whatever was nearby and killed the attacker. But he knew this was only the beginning. More Japanese soldiers appeared, 2 at the tent entrance, then 4 more crawling under the canvas walls. Solomon fought with raw intensity. He kicked a knife from one soldier's hand, shot another, bayoneted a third, and headbutted a fourth. His determination was absolute, his fighting spirit unbreakable. But as the waves of attackers continued, Solomon realized the truth. He couldn't hold them off and save his patients. He made his choice. He ordered his medical staff to evacuate the wounded, telling them to make their way back to the regimental aid station. "I'll hold them off," he said, "until you get to safety." Those words, spoken calmly in the midst of chaos, revealed the true measure of his character. Solomon grabbed a rifle from one of the wounded soldiers and rushed outside the tent. The battle had evolved into something apocalyptic. 4 American soldiers manning a machine gun had been killed. Without hesitation, Solomon took control of the weapon, an M1917A1 Browning machine gun. What happened next was extraordinary. For approximately 15 hours, as the battle raged around him, Captain Benjamin Salomon, a man trained to heal, not to kill, stood his ground and fired again and again, again and again. The Japanese kept charging, he kept fighting. When relief finally arrived and the smoke cleared, what the soldiers found was almost impossible to comprehend. Captain Salomon lay dead, slumped over his machine gun. His body bore the marks of his terrible final stand. He had been shot 76 times. 24 of those bullets may have been fired while he was still alive. He was covered in bayonet wounds, and surrounding his position, piled like macabre evidence of his incredible resolve, were the bodies of 98 Japanese soldiers. 98. Those are the numbers that define his heroism. 1 man, 1 gun, nearly 100 enemies, all in a single desperate battle on a single day. The immediate reaction from his unit was to recommend him for the Medal of Honor, America's highest military decoration. But there was a problem. General George W. Greiner, the commanding general of the 27th Division, rejected the recommendation. His reason? Medical officers were not permitted to bear arms according to the Geneva Convention. Salomon was a medical professional. Therefore, in Greiner's interpretation, he couldn't receive the medal for using weapons in combat, even if he was defending his patients and fellow soldiers. It was a technical objection that many considered an injustice. For 58 years, Benjamin Salomon's extraordinary courage went officially unrecognized by his nation. For nearly 6 decades, the man who single-handedly held back an overwhelming assault, who sacrificed his life to protect the wounded, who killed nearly 100 enemies while asking for nothing in return, was denied the medal he had earned 1,000 times over. But justice, even delayed justice, eventually came. In 2002, President George W. Bush posthumously awarded the Medal of Honor to Captain Benjamin Lewis Salomon. The citation acknowledged his conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity at the risk of his life above and beyond the call of duty. His Medal of Honor is now on display at USC's School of Dentistry, the same institution where he had earned his dental degree years before. Today, Captain Benjamin Salomon stands as one of the most remarkable figures in American military history. He was one of only 3 dental officers to have received the Medal of Honor in the entire history of the United States. He was one of only 3 Jewish American soldiers to receive the medal for service in World War II. But more importantly, he represents something larger than statistics and numbers. He represents the transformation of an ordinary man into an extraordinary hero. A dentist who became a soldier, a healer who became a protector, a quiet professional who, when the moment came, showed a courage so pure and so absolute that it transcends the chaos of war itself. His last stand on July 7, 1944, saved the lives of countless wounded soldiers and ensured that the Japanese assault, one of the war's largest coordinated attacks, would fail. Captain Benjamin Lewis Salomon died so that others might live. His memory and his incredible story deserves to be remembered by every American, every student of history, and every person who has ever wondered what true heroism looks like. The next time someone asks you about forgotten heroes of World War II, remember Captain Benjamin Salomon. Remember the dentist who stood alone. Remember the man who held a line against thousands. Remember that heroism isn't always about what's celebrated in the moment. Sometimes the greatest acts of courage are only truly honored long after the dust has settled. If you found this story as incredible as I did, please like this video, subscribe for more forgotten stories of extraordinary bravery, and share this with someone you think should know about Captain Benjamin Salomon, because history like this deserves to be remembered. Thanks for watching.